Oh, welcome, everyone. Dr. Stephen Hobbs here from the Wealth Movement. Yesterday, I put out a digital media post entitled Change Surrounds Every Challenge. And I got thinking, is there more to just putting out a digital media post? And my answer was yes. And I thought today that I would add a little bit more substance, more information to go with that digital media post. And it came about because of the second word. I really want to look at change and transition and this notion of challenge that you might find yourself in. And it's from a challenge point of view that I'm bringing this live presentation to you. You might be seeing it after the fact. But the notion of challenge is that I've accepted a video challenge, a video production challenge. I take up different kinds of challenges along the way, and I'll put some notes below in terms of this video challenge. But I took it up because I wanted to really take a look at how am I presenting now. I've shot 600 some videos over the years up on my YouTube channels. And I thought that I would actually spend a bit of time over a couple of weeks putting up some videos and really taking a look at what is happening for me. And then that's what got me thinking, okay, well, that is a change in some ways. And how might I be able to explain that to others? In other words, you, the viewer, so that you might appreciate what it is that I'm attempting to share with you. So I prepared this presentation for you about change surrounds every challenge. And I'm actually going to use my whiteboard functionality on this video so that I can highlight a couple of items for you as we move forward and give you some suggestions about how you could take a look at something called change surrounds every challenge in your life. And you know that I'm working with solo agers. If not, you now know. And this idea of solo aging and legacy. And this video can certainly support those who are solo agers in a solo aging lifestyle, looking at decoding legacy and bringing themselves into a legacy life. So here we go. Now, what's really interesting was this notion of change surrounds every challenge. I put in the every, but it was an actual learner who shared with me change surrounds challenge. And it was part of a paper that they had submitted to me. And I it sort of tickled me. I had a good chuckle when I read it. And I went, that is really true. And you find it in the sense of change, okay, in the sense of there it is there around every challenge. And I thought that was a kind of a really impressive way of taking a look at a way in which to understand change and understand challenge. Now, the notion of change for me is also accompanied with the word transition. So I think of change as something that is happening to me. It's from the external world, the planet, the whole, that is influencing me. And transition is my response to that change. And therefore, this change in response brings out the notion of the what surrounds me, what's the situation, which brings forward the idea of the challenges that I'm going to take up. Now, what becomes interesting from a challenges point of view is that you have to remember that there are problem challenges and appreciation challenges. So let me explain that just a little bit more. There are concerns in our lives that are brought about because of the change and the knowing we're going through the transition. And those concerns, those emotions that come forward often are attached to something, a problem, something that's not working, something that's a hindrance. But Interesting enough, if you give yourself enough time to just sort of take a couple of breaths, you'll find that there's a lot of joy in your life that are aligned with appreciations, things that help you. And if you can find a way in which to balance them up, you actually find that there is a way in which to move forward that doesn't seem to come from a position of hindrance all the time or lessening avoidance. It's actually, there's a way of helping yourself to move forward with an approach. And for me, when I figured this out and I went, you know what? There's something happening here that I think is of great value to others. It's what sparked me to think about and thank this learner of mine around this notion of change surrounds every challenge. And what is it that I could do to assist people in finding the sense of the challenge, find the approach rather than lessen the avoidance, is to deepen your approach, your way of living your life. That really sparked me to take a look at, well, who would I like to interact with? And that's when I sort of looked at aging. I'm aging, solo aging. I'm a solo ager. How might I be able to support others who are like me? And there are quite a few of us now in the sense of what's happening in our lives. Now, it might be is because of being a widow or a widower, maybe an empty nester, and the kids are way far away from you. So in other words, you're living a life where it's really yourself, and that's the notion of the solo aging, solo ager. And I picked up on this and I said, I believe there's something here that I could help out with. And this is where I wanted to share just a little bit more with you about the importance of understanding change and challenge and what surrounds all of this. So what that means is that I want to bring to your attention now sort of, well, let's take a look at the answer why. That's an important question. Why is it? And I thought that what I would do is give you a metaphor, an acronym that you could use, and then just sort of, in a way, break it down just a little bit more so that you could get a sense of what you can do on a daily basis. So the why I've sort of hinted at is if you want to live a legacy life, you want to live a great life, an extraordinary life, however you may wish to put it, from a solo aging. And hey, listen, from an aging perspective, then understanding about this change and challenge is important. So I came up with the sense of carts. And some of this I've covered off already. So carts is a way to remind you of a tool that you can bring with you, the carts that can roll with you. Now, you can push a cart or you can pull a cart. I appreciate pulling a cart rather than pushing it. That's just my personal preference. So carts here refers to the challenge, the C, and finding the appreciations to balance off the problems so that you might be able to find this notion of resilience and reciprocity and relevance. These are related words in living your life so that you can figure out the transition you want to go through. So the transition, there is actually three forms of it: transactional, transformative, and transcendent. I know that all three are present in my life, and I suggest that they're present in yours as well. Transactional is the give and take you do in a given day, and how might you improve, focus, and strengthen those. The transformative ones are the shift, the form. You might have form A, but what you're doing is looking at how can I create something that moved me through the format of B to C, and if you want to use the alphabet, go for it. And then there's the transcendent, which is to sort of send me somewhere where I'm not really expecting, but yet I'm willing to go. And sometimes that's brought about through interactions with others. So this notion of transition becomes really important for the T of cart. Now, if I add the S, that's from the sense of what surrounds the situation from a safety perspective. In other words, creating safe systems and safer practices. So that's the notion of the carts. It's just to remind you, is to be able to pull that technology, that techniques, the tools, the tips that come with that. So what this does is it unfolds, I believe, this notion of a why from a learn, knowledge, and share perspective. And this is a really quick way to remind you that if you're going to live this great life, this legacy life, and when you start to interact with others, and especially yourself, then understand from a learn point of view is that you are gaining a perspective. And this is really important. You're gaining a perspective. So with that perspective, what you're able to do is go, all right, I've collected in these insights. So if this change is happening to me, and this is the transition I'm using, I've understood the problems and the appreciations that go with that. I'm starting to gain up a perspective. And that perspective then allows me to go, okay, these are the ways to consider or considerations given to the direction that I might take, the decisions, the action outcomes that I will enact. So I've gained this perspective. I have these considerations that I now know. When I go to share, what I'm actually sharing is my point of view. So one of the key elements here is your point of view framed in response to the change or reaction to the change. Is the transition you're putting in place that which is appropriate for the situation? So this notion of perspective, consideration, point of view, when you share your point of view, and it isn't always just by the words that you use, it can be the actions that you take, the yes-no responses that you give, the body language that you are presenting when you're with others. Your point of view comes out in a lot of different ways. And I wanted to just bring this to your attention so that as you form up the intention of living your extraordinary life, your legacy life, is that you come from a perspective of this carts, this quick way, this metaphor way of looking at it, so that you can bring your sense of the perspective that you've gained, the considerations that you are moving around in your head, heart, and hands, and the point of view that you're sharing is aligned with the legacy life, the impact that you would like to live. Now, you can bring this into your life as a teenager, a young adult, a parent, a professional. These ideas pertain across the whole gambit of life. But I've been using more of the soloaging, soloager example because it's real for me at the moment. And therefore, the carts that I am pulling with me are filled around legacy and nature and safety and experience and mentoring. These are words and ideas that are really important to me. So I'm hoping that this has taken that notion of a simple image of digital marketing image and a couple of words that went with it. And I expanded upon it through the use of this video. And again, I'll just remind you is that this is one of many videos that are coming out of a video challenge that I'm in. because one of the things that I do is I take up different challenges all the time in terms of living my extraordinary life, living my legacy life. So I would encourage you to take up challenges wherever you might find them. And I'm not talking about that go for years and years. They may go for 5 days, 7 days, 9 days. I know that I'm creating one around solo aging challenge that I believe will sort of spark, oh, I hadn't thought of it from that direction. And that will be made available. I might even do a couple of those. So again, I continue to learn. I'm curious, I'm learning, I'm knowing, I'm sharing. In other words, perspective, consideration, point of view, I'm bringing up forward. And guess what? That keeps me in piqued curiosity. And I like it and I enjoy it. And I'm hoping that this is assisting you as well with some understanding. So with that, I think I'm going to close up this one. If you have any questions you'd like to ask, you can put them in the comments section wherever you might find this video. So as always, take care of yourself and we'll catch you on the next one.